You're watching True Review. The following series is focused on one particular franchise, as it starts out as a rival to the granddaddy of FPS games, but will quickly turn into a huge commercial success. But this success was not to last, as the franchise would see a huge decline in its popular support, to which the entire series would almost fall into obscurity, only to be pulled from the brink in one last-ditched effort. This is the story of the Unreal franchise, and now it's time for the next chapter in our story. After playing the original Unreal game back in 1999, I waited in hope that the next game in the series would answer all of my questions about the next part of the story. Was the main character ever going to make it back to Earth, or would he simply be forgotten forever? Well, he was kind of forgotten, because in November of 1999, I was ready to have my balls blown off by what would soon become the boss man of deathmatch-based games. As I mentioned in the previous video, the mission pack for Unreal kind of went under the gaming radar, and so many of us completely missed it when it came out. Naturally, when the next title was announced, most of us thought that this was the sequel. Little did we know that we were about to get something else entirely. When I heard about the next game, I instantly began thinking about what the plot would be like. Expecting the title of the new game to be called Unreal 2 or Unrealer, I was surprised when faced with the title Unreal Tournament. This threw me off for a second, and I started thinking about the prisoner returning to the planet to compete in some sort of fighting championship for his freedom. Instead, we got a completely different game altogether, and my hopes of there ever being an end to the original story fell to nothing. But there I was in 1999. The new millennium is only 1 month away, but who gives a shit? I have a new Unreal game. Woo! So, what is there to say about Unreal Tournament? Well, I think the best way to start this out is by giving you an explanation of what the developers had in mind when making this one. Whilst the previous Unreal game met with huge success, with the single player mode being highly acclaimed by reviewers at the time, not to mention how impressed everyone was with the graphics provided by the Unreal Engine, Epic Mega Games, now by this point known simply as Epic Games, and Digital Extremes did face some minor forms of criticism when it came to the multiplayer side of the game. Whilst everyone agreed that it was okay, this side of the game failed to beat Quake 2's multiplayer. When compared to Quake 2, Unreal beat in every aspect except when it came to the multiplayer. Quake 2's multiplayer was just simply better. It had more content, was way more user friendly, and didn't have as many bugs in it, although patches for Unreal's multiplayer was later released. Taking all of this on board, both developing companies went back to the drawing board with the idea of solving all of these problems in mind, and by November of 1999, they had done it. Launched ironically enough at the same time as Quake 3 Arena, the newly titled Unreal Tournament was now available to the PC. By now, GT Interactive, the company that had been responsible for publishing the previous Unreal game, had gone into administration, and so this company was bought out by a closely related one, that being Infogrames. And so the commercial battle between Unreal and Quake continued. It's difficult to say who won this round. Unreal Tournament has often been praised for being the better game for a number of reasons. The gameplay, graphics, modding, replay value, etc, etc. However, one thing must be kept in mind the whole time. At the time when both of these games were released, Quake 3 Arena sold more copies initially because it was Quake. There were simply more Quake fans than Unreal, and so Quake 3 Arena initially raked in the most money. And whilst Quake 3 is a really good game, and shows off better graphics than Quake 2 with its new engine, its fluid gameplay, and to be fair, I personally think it has just as much replay value as Unreal, when in comparison with Unreal Tournament, there is no confusion over which is the better game. Unreal Tournament had more to offer. Unreal Tournament is focused almost entirely on the multiplayer side of things. There is no official story in Unreal Tournament, even though there's a single player campaign. Although you can play a lot of it offline, there's no single player mode in the same sense as there was in the previous game. The entire game is based around the different deathmatch modes. In the single player campaign, you take part as a tournament combatant as you fight your way up the different game mode ladders in order to become the tournament grandmaster. And although there isn't a main story to follow here, there is a backstory. Although this is a spiritual successor to the first game, in actual fact the two are not related. They are both set in the same universe, but Unreal Tournament takes place several years later, with the events of the first game barely being mentioned. There are three main options for you to play when loading up the game. Either you can compete in the tournament and dominate all in a single player campaign, or you can simply play any level you like on what terms you like for fun, known throughout the rest of the series as instant action. And finally, you can take your skills online and fight other players on different servers. In the first section, you'll play a series of predetermined matches involving a certain number of bots on a particular map, and once you've won that match, you simply move on to the next one. There are many game modes here included. Deathmatch and Team Deathmatch have not changed at all since the last game, whilst King of the Hill and Dark Match were removed completely. In their places was Domination, a more action-oriented version of King of the Hill. In this mode, the aim of the game is to gain enough points to win the match. To get points, players are required to capture and hold certain key positions around the map. Some maps have only 2 positions, while others have up to 4. Points are generated over time through holding a position, and the longer you hold one, or the more positions your team owns, the more points are generated. This led to a very frantic and action-packed gaming mode, as players often found that once they had captured a position, another position they previously held was now in enemy hands, thus forcing players to move quickly around the map in an attempt to maintain control. Capture the Flag was also introduced here. This mode is simple. There are 2 teams, and each team has a base with a flag in it. The aim is to go into the enemy base, steal their flag, and return it to yours. Simple, yet exciting, as now players are forced to adopt different roles and strategies in order to win the round. Not every player could be expected to attack the enemy base, as there would be no one left to protect their own flag. And not every player was required to obtain the flag, as only one person can carry it at any given time. This meant that some players would be forced into a bodyguard role, protecting their teammates who had taken the enemy's flag. Although this gaming mode is nothing new, it was new to the franchise and was seen by all as a very welcomed addition to the game. There was also Last Man Standing, which is another variation of Deathmatch, where instead of reaching a frag limit, each player started off with a certain number of lives. Each time a player was killed, they would lose 1 life, and once the player's lives reached 0, they were out of the match, and the player left standing is the winner. The final mode is Assault. This was seen by most to be the most popular mode of them all. In this mode, there are 2 teams. One team would be attacking, and the other would be on defense. In each map, the attackers would be given a series of objectives and would win the map if they completed them all. Some objectives would, for example, be to flip a switch or destroy a console, rather than kill the enemy team. However, the defending team's job is to make sure that the attackers don't achieve these goals. If the goals are met, then the attackers would win, but if the time limit runs out, then the defenders win. Some of the maps are really well thought out, such as an underwater level, and a recreation of the D-Day landing. These were all of the gaming modes originally, though when the Game of the Year edition was released a year later, another gaming mode was added called Rocket Arena, which acted as a one-on-one based deathmatch round. The weapons that were included in this game too were also perfected. Most of the guns that were present in the previous game were either brought straight over or were modified. Guns such as the flat cannon and the GES bio rifle were largely left unchanged and were still incredibly deadly in the right hands. Other weapons such as the minigun, sniper rifle, ASMD shock rifle, pistol and razorjack were either remodeled, enhanced or both. The sniper rifle now had an actual sniper scope to it. The ASMD shock rifle was renamed just the shock rifle, the pistol was renamed Enforcer and could now be dual wielded, and the razorjack was renamed Ripper, though all of these saw remodelling done to them. The 8-ball also makes an appearance here, though this time it's called the rocket launcher, but functions much in the same way. Some guns, such as the dispersion pistol and the stinger, were removed completely, with the dispersion pistol becoming quite redundant the second the player gets hold of another weapon, and the stinger, due to the fact that the minigun was already there and acted much in the same way. Other weapons were newly created, such as the plasma firing pulse rifle. However, Unreal Tournaments would become well known for one gun in particular, and this was the Redeemer launcher. Ironically named, this large gun is essentially a nuclear warhead missile launcher and is devastating when used correctly. It only carried 1 missile, meaning that players who managed to get their hands on it were forced to wait for that perfect shot, where they could fire one of these into a crowd and witness their frag count go through the roof. All those who are caught in the blast's huge radius, including the player if they were careless enough, are instantly vaporized, leaving not much behind. But if this isn't enough to be classed as a deadly weapon, then the launcher also comes with a player-guided launching system, where players could directly control where the missile goes and lands, including a premature detonation system if required. A huge selection of maps were also included in the game. Almost all the maps are varied from each other, being set in some really strange and interesting places, including a very small spaceship hurtling through hyperspace, an ancient gnarly temple in the mountains, or an open pyramid suspended in midair. A small number of maps were brought over from the previous game, though they all saw some forms of remodelling and were each tweaked in their own way. The number of different bots and characters here is also quite astounding. Although there are 32 pre-made bots, it's possible to customise them all, changing their names, appearances, skills, or even just creating new bots entirely. In fact, the modding side of things does not end here. Each map can be customised to suit how the player wants to play the game through the use of mutators. This includes major changes to the gameplay, such as the introduction of low gravity in the map, making the gameplay feel like you're fighting on the moon, or by changing how high the player can jump, making it look like something out of the Matrix. There are also minor changes that you can add, such as making all ammo boxes remain once the player has picked them up, or by having them explode if you shoot them, as well as the addition of melee weapons. All of this can be played online on different dedicated servers, and it is here where we see the issues that Epic Games and Digital Extremes were faced with in the previous game melt away in a perfectly done multiplayer mode. Now it's easy for players to simply go online, find a server to join, and start fragging some noobs, and thus the franchise had achieved the kind of multiplayer that Quake 2 had shown them in the previous years. But Unreal Tournament would not stop here. Within a year of its release, the much sought after Game of the Year edition was released, including many more maps for most of the gaming modes, brand new weapons, including melee weapons, crossbows, new sniper rifles, and 2 new super weapons in the form of a deployable gun turret and a vortex weapon that creates a black hole in the map and sucks players into it. Also with this comes the previously mentioned Rocket Arena gaming mode, with its own never before seen maps and some brand new mods to add to the already extensive list. But even with all of this, there was still new content being released, except this time on the behalf of the users. Thanks to the Unreal script editor that came with the game, players were now able to use this easy to follow program to edit existing maps or create brand new ones based on their own designs, thus drastically increasing Unreal Tournament's potential lifespan. This game had so much to offer and still does. The replay value here is unheard of, and regardless of what gaming era you're used to, this is certainly one game that everyone can appreciate to some degree. Even those gamers who cannot stand the FPS genre can at least admit that this was a game done right. This can be the only game that I will always have installed on my PC, just in case I feel like I need that emergency play, and it's easily my personal favourite game of all time. And so there it was. The Unreal franchise was at an all-time high. Players from all around the world were going mad over it, and all 3 companies, Epic Games, Digital Extremes and Infogrames, were enjoying this success along with all the money they were earning from it. It's funny to think, however, that this is the point where the series was at its peak, and no one would have known it at the time, as all of this commercial success and money that the companies were making was to be the last they'd ever see on this scale, for very soon, the franchise would begin a steady downward slope and many fans would end up losing faith in the franchise. A dark age is about to become apparent to all as a shadow descends over the Unreal series. But that is a tale that will have to wait until next time. Hey everyone, True Review here. In every video I make, I always try to put in every bit of effort I can to produce a video of quality. So why not leave a like and subscribe to my channel if you like what you saw. Also, leave a comment below, or if you just want to chat about the Unreal series, then leave me a message. As always, don't forget to catch up on all the previous True Review episodes, and why not check out Robert Court's tech support for gaming technical solutions to all of your PC game problems. See you soon.
Bang! I make it look easy. Hey, log vent! Those hot arteries don't stop bullets, do they?
Hey, God! No, turned it sideways. Kill shot! It's a kill shot!